Well, I'm back in the tunnel nice and early for me, and I'm clearing it today. It's a lot of work actually, but I do like to do this kind of clean sweep. I take everything out the tunnel and take all the tomatoes out, and then give it a good clean with my trusty sort of cleaning mitt. Scrub it all down, and then get all the beds really well watered, give them a bit of fertiliser, and then get this new farmyard manure on the beds, and hopefully then put everything back in again after it's all nice and clean, all ready for planting next week. So it's a lot of work all day long probably, but I do like it. I do like this clean sweep once a year to get the whole thing really well cleaned out. I think it makes for a good start into winter. So I'm all cleared out by the tomatoes now, and just a few bits in that bed. So I'm going to snip all the tomatoes off with their greens and put them in that big grey crate over there. They're all starting to ripen. They're not ripe, but yeah, I think most of these should ripen off with the banana. So that was actually a decent crop of tomatoes, and unstringing them is super easy this time because I've used these little clips that make it, well, it's just a doddle basically to take the tomatoes down. And I love these clips actually. They're reusable and a heck of a lot easier than any other system that I've used. I used to always break a few of the tomatoes off previously, the stems off, when I was training them around the strings, and so with these little clips there's no danger of that. They are quite expensive though, but easily worth it for me. I like making my life easier rather than harder. And that was a lot of fun. And then I just snip the roots off because I don't actually like to compost the roots. So just the tops. That's all nicely composted, well, chopped, ready for composting. Just turning this bin into it now. So I'm 1 hour in now, just need to take up these halos, store them away for next year. I do love these things, use them so much now. I've gradually built up my supply so I can use them for all the peppers, all the melons, all the tomatoes, and all of the winter squash. What a difference they make to how easy it is to water and just keep the plants generally sort of healthy. So I'm getting close now, just lots and lots and lots of watering to do now, and I do prefer to do it by hand because then I know how much I've put down. I'm going to put down probably about 3 watering cans per square metre, and hopefully that'll be enough. That's about what I've got saved up of rainwater. And I've got to put my little shelf up, which is always a bit of a tricky job on my own. But I suppose it gets easier every year because it does get lighter every year. Right, so that's that. I just need to loop these hooks on. Get that lined up. And there we go. Excellent. Right, keep watering. Some almost done now. just smoothing off this farmyard manure that I'm using. I like this stuff. I've never had any problems with weeds in it. It's quite fine, although I did find that in it, which is about the biggest piece of wood I've ever found in a bag of compost. But other than that, it's really good. And yeah, it's a bit lumpy, but as I said, just break it up a little bit with my hands and it's fine. I needed 4 bags for the whole tunnel. I've cleaned the tunnel inside and out, so I've given it a really good spray down with the hose pipe on its fiercest jet setting, and I'm very thankful that the allotment committee doesn't switch the water off until after I've done all this clean up. And yeah, I've cleaned it all outside. What I do with the outside is to just get my brush and wrap a towel around it and use that to scrub the algae and whatever off the outside of the tunnel. The inside's a lot easier to clean by hand. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with the way it's going. I've just got to put my little stepping stones in so I can actually get to the back of the beds for harvesting and planting. And one last clean down, and then I'll just leave it then until next week, just to sort of settle, because obviously it's a big disruption, this putting all this rich compost down and all this water down. Lots of slugs and snails have probably come out of hiding, so I'll put some slug pellets down the backs of these raised beds. That'll catch all those, and say be ready for planting in sort of 3 or 4 days, I should think. Also, just let some of this water, because the ground's pretty soggy now at the top, but it won't be very soggy down below, so just let some of this water soak down, and I won't be planting my seedlings into really soggy ground. I'm also just trying to keep the humidity a little bit lower, because the humidity tonight in here is going to be 100%, and it will be for a few days. So I'll keep it all really well ventilated, and hopefully then it'll be a nicer environment again for new seedlings. Whether any of these precautions are actually necessary, I don't know, but that's what I tell myself. It's nice to get it clean once a year. Right, I'm going to put everything back. Right, I've just finished planting the polytunnel, and the polytunnel, I always dedicate it for this time of year to salad ingredients, and I'm really majoring on lettuces, claytonia and Asian greens, and I'll just talk you through the varieties, and I'll also talk you through how well I expect them to do and what I'm going to be planting after these lettuces when it comes to sort of February time and sometimes March time. So what have we got? At this end I've got Brighton. So Brighton is just a green, pretty boring lettuce, but it's a lettuce that does well in winter and it gets a reasonable head and it stands pretty well. So I'm hoping to have at least 3 rows, that's 15 plants, of head lettuce to harvest in midwinter. Then I've got Grenoble Red. So Grenoble Red is one of my favourite lettuces all year round really, but it does particularly well in winter, up to about the middle of December, and then from about early to mid-February onwards. If you pick it too hard, basically, you know, continue picking individual leaves off it all the way through midwinter, it tends to suffer from stem rot. Not on every plant, but on a significant proportion, maybe 20, maybe 30% of plants. My theory around that is that it's in midwinter, the plants have very little light energy coming in, which means have a weak immune system, which means if you pick individual leaves off them, you're wounding the plants every week all the way through midwinter, and you're opening up many opportunities for that plant to succumb to a fungal infection. If you don't pick them in that midwinter period, as I say, from about mid-December to early February, then you're leaving the plants intact, unwounded, which means they get through midwinter strong, which means that when they come to February, maybe your first pick is in early February, mid-February, there's now enough light energy for the plant's immune systems to tolerate the wounds from picking the leaves. So that's my theory. And so based on that theory, I've got two strategies. One is lots of plants that I will harvest the whole plant of, so I'm not worried about wounding the plants. Quite a few beds out there where I'll be harvesting whole plants. So in here, I can take the pressure off the plants, keep them healthy, so that this polytunnel is the primary lettuce growing environment in spring, early spring. That means then that the outside beds can get replanted with lettuces that are my favourite varieties for mid-spring and late spring. So that's Grenoble Red, really great, really nice texture to it, nice leaf colour, nice taste. As I say, really good almost all year round, apart from that period in midwinter. And next up is Roxy. So Roxy is a bit more robust. Don't lose as many of these to stem rot, but it doesn't have quite as nice leaf quality as Grenoble Red, but super robust plant, beautiful leaf colouring in spring, but not quite as crunchy and tastier leaf, but definitely still worth growing. It's easily my second favourite lettuce basically for growing over winter. So let's this plane go over. So I've got 4 rows of Roxy there. Next up is one of my experimental plantings, and that is Flashy Lightning Butter Oak. Now, in previous years I've grown Flashy Butter Oak. I prefer Flashy Lightning Butter Oak now, slightly smaller plants, but lots of those other great characteristics. A really lovely tasty leaf, lovely leaf colouring, a really nice crunchy big rib. So a beautiful lettuce in spring, summer and autumn. I would like to see whether I can keep it going through winter, but I am prepared to lose all of this part of the bed, or rather harvest it all in December and early January basically, by harvesting the whole plants. But we'll see how strong these plants look, and I might leave a few and harvest a few in midwinter to see how resistant they are to stem rot. Then we've got Riccia. Oh no, another plane going over. That's the challenge of making videos on this allotment site right next to Blackpool Airport. Not right next to Blackpool Airport, about a mile away from Blackpool Airport. So yeah, Riccia is one of my favourite plants, lettuces all year round. Really lovely leaf texture, you know, quite a crunchy leaf. It's a Lollo type of leaf, and yeah, I really love it, but it rarely survives very well right through winter. So I'll almost certainly take those plants out before the end of January. And when I mean take out, I just mean harvest the whole plant and eat the whole plant. Same with Maureen, which is a little gem variety, and same with Ballark down there, which is a Salanova variety. And my reason I primarily grow Ballark is because it's got a nice red leaf. But again, none of those I'm expecting to last through until February. So that means I will have plants ready to go into this bed in January, and I'll start those back in December under grow lights, so that I'm ready to start clearing this and replanting as we go through January. On this side of the polytunnel, we've got Claytonia at that end and Claytonia right at that end. Claytonia is a wonderful lettuce. Well, it's not a lettuce, It's a wonderful vegetable. Used in the salad mixes. It's got a much smaller leaf than lettuce. It's got a really nice kind of crunchy stem to it, so you want to be picking the stem as well. I find it tends to go to seed by the end of February, so I'm always ready to get it replanted by then. And what I do is I just take the middle plant, so I plant 9 plants, take the middle plant out and put a cauliflower in or a calabrese in. And I'll probably do that towards the end of January. That plant then grows away nice and happily with the other plants around it. And then as it needs the space through February, I'll be taking whole plants out. And then by the end of February, all those claytonia will have gone and there'll just be a cauliflower or calabrese in there. That is fine because we should have the lettuces that have successfully overwintered will really be producing no end of leaves by the time we get to March. So yeah, we'll have more than enough and we won't need all the lettuces and things in this bed. So next up is tatsoi. Another plane coming over. Yeah, so tatsoi is a bit of a wonder. I really love it. It's also great in the salad mixes, stands really well, tends to go to seed in February or very early March. So again, I want to have this bed cleared sometime in February, and what I tend to do is I tend to take the middle out and put calabrese and cauliflowers down the middle, and then leave the outer rows to grow until they start to go to seed, and then take those whole plants out. Fortunately, they don't tend to all go to seed at exactly the same time, so you do get a little bit of a staggered effect there. And yeah, what I'm going to say about that, so then down here we'll have calabrese perhaps, and then in that bed down there we'll have cauliflower. So what's next? Red stem pak choi. Again for the salad mixes, again a lovely Asian green, also tends to go to seed in February. Mainly the issue with them going to seed is because they've been grown in a polytunnel, they've grown really big, then it gets cold and that just sort of triggers them to go to seed. Red stem pak choi, really lovely, harvest individual leaves here. These almost never succumb to stem rot, unlike the lettuces in this bed. So you just keep on harvesting these until the leaf quality declines or they go to seed. And then komatsuma down there, just a lovely green crunchy rib on that, really lovely, and then claytonia down there. And so I'll do the same with that claytonia bed, another calabrese or cauliflower. So we end up, by the time we get to March, all of this is calabrese and cauliflowers, and all of this will probably be a mix of Asian greens and lettuces that have survived over winter, and then progressively I'll get these lettuces that have survived over winter, probably get those replanted with some other lettuces, or leave them in there depending on how well they're doing. So that is the polytunnel planting plan. I normally actually have my hanging baskets in here with some extra lettuces for hanging baskets, but I'm not going to do that this year because all my hanging baskets are sort of full of strawberries, because I like strawberries more than I like lettuces. I do like lettuces quite a lot, and Asian greens and claytonia and everything, but yeah, I really love the strawberries, and it's just really nice to have a nice continuous harvest of strawberries through April, May and June and July, you know, all the months basically when it's possible to get good strawberries. And that means quite a lot of them being grown in hanging baskets, and I'll bring those in about January time. For my second earlies, my super earlies that are start harvesting in April, will be in the greenhouse back at home. And yeah, and it has the advantage that I don't keep banging my head on on the hanging baskets, which was always an issue otherwise. So I will be putting stuff up on these benches, and I'll have carrots in October on the trestle tables, and I'll have, well, I won't tell you what I'll have because I think I'll leave that for another video, but I'll be doing some interesting things on these trestle tables, so we'll see how it goes. I've done quite a few other lettuce beds out there. I've got the ones that we're harvesting right now, which are looking a little bit rough, the ones that will be starting to harvest very soon, so in a week or two's time, and they're growing quite nicely. We've got some really lovely salad spinach next to those that we're harvesting as well, and I've just planted 2 beds which will start harvesting in probably November, late November, December time, and we'll be harvesting a lot of those as whole plants because a lot of those beds get replanted in January and February, similar to this with calabrese, spring cabbages, baby Savoy cabbages, red cabbages, cauliflowers and calabrese. So yeah, lots to go in after the lettuce is out there and also after the spinach is out there. And I think with that, I'll finish up here. Here we are at the harvest table again. I'm full of cold, so I'm going to be pleased to finish this harvest and take the rest of the day off. I'll quickly run you through what we've got. So we've got some potatoes from the store, onions and shallots from the store. There'll be some garlic as well somewhere around. Carrots from the ground, and this is the test pick that I did from the winter and spring carrot bed. So I'm really pretty pleased with these. There's not a single one that's got any sign of slug damage. And now I've cleared the tops off. Hopefully there won't be any slug damage. Carrots there are for the salads, the little ones. Nice little sample of the fruit. We've still got a huge number of apples on the trees, and some of those we're just picking, but we've finished the pears now. I think that's all the pears that we've got left now. And we've got a mix there of Williams and Concord. So that's what a Concord looks like. It looks exactly like a conference, but it's super sweet and really crisp and crunchy. Really remarkably better, I think. But I don't really know why the world sort of settled on conference rather than Concord, because Concord for me is a superior pear. And we have got 2 Concord trees and keep putting in more. So we're still on the immature squashes. We'll switch over fairly soon. We'll run out. We'll switch to the mature ones, but got to get through those immature ones first. Still eating the baby red cabbages. Again, we'll switch over to the big ones soon. Take a few Brussels sprout leaves. I'm leaving the Brussels sprout tops as long as I can because I really love those. Lovely kales. Look at that. So incredibly tender. I only really like kale when it's like that. Really tender. Last there of the side shoots of the calabrese, and that's the end of the calabrese for us. But soon the start of the cauliflowers. Leeks, loads of leeks. This is the penultimate harvest of the peppers. I haven't got them all here. The utility is absolutely full of peppers, loads of green ones as well. And same with the tomatoes. I've just got 2 sample tubs of tomatoes, but again, there's loads and loads in the utility. And those are the last of the allotment cherry tomatoes, but we've got loads of ripe tomatoes in the greenhouse, just letting those sort of carry on to ripen a little bit more. Because at this time of year, when they're ripening, obviously there's not much energy in the sun, so you need to give them as much as possible if you want them sweet. These aren't actually that sweet, to be honest, but I think rather than waste them, we'll just get through them this week. Beetroot, and that's actually from the store. We haven't started harvesting our autumn beetroot bed yet, and I think that's the last of the radishes now. You know, at this time of year, it's hard to get root crops to grow. You know, they've pretty much done all the growing now. A little bit of growth on turnips probably still to come, but not much more. And we'll have turnips next week. Asian greens, really tough. They're growing outside. I'm looking forward to the Asian greens that have been grown in the polytunnel. They'll be really tender and crunchy. Salad onions, And then these are all for the salads. So salad spinach, looking really, really nice. And salad, well, I hesitate to call it baby leaf really now, but this is, in theory, the baby leaf beetroot and chard leaves. They're a little bit big now, but anyway, that's what we've got. And the lettuce bases. So I'm going to make up those salads now, as I always do, and you can see the end result, but I'm pretty happy. Managed to just fill the table again, which is my objective every week of the year. My name's Steve, this is the Seaside Kitchen Garden Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.